right?
Yeah.
Is it like, oh, we're 2 games?
Lane says we're wrecked and the car is totaled.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We're not that far, Lane. We're not that far. The check engine light came on. You know, we're hearing some funny noises coming from the engine. We're going to call AAA, see what happens there. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good at all.
Yeah, I think we need a new engine. And that would be the coach for me.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about coaching then. So let's say theoretically Luke Walton is relieved of his coaching duties after the loss to the Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to upset anybody, but at this point it's not looking good. Alvin Gentry's the next man in line. He's the vice president. He's ready to step in. We got no Nancy Pelosi on this team unless you would consider that a Doug Christie or something like that. So Alvin Gentry's ready to take over.
Uh-huh.
How do you feel about that fit on this team?
I like it. I mean, I don't know if Alvin Gentry is necessarily my long-term answer at head coach, but the Kings are in a really fortunate position with the fact that they have all these guys on the bench right now. And Alvin Gentry has a lot of head coaching experience in this league. So he would be an ideal interim head coach, in my opinion. And who knows, maybe it could be a Nate McMillan situation where he takes over. The Kings all of a sudden turn it around. They start playing really well. They make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And Alvin Gentry does become the next long-term head coach. But I think it makes a lot of sense for them to let him be the interim head coach and just keep that label on him, make nothing official yet, wait to see how things go, and use all the time that they have for the rest of the season to do a really good productive search for the next head coach. And I think you wait until later on in the year, guys get fired or whatever happens, teams don't make the playoffs, other guys could become available. You don't rush this because you have somebody like Alvin Gentry who can be an adequate interim head coach in the meantime.
Yeah, I think Alvin Gentry is well respected around the league. You know, he's been everywhere. You know, he's been with the Spurs, he's been with the Clippers, he's been with the Heat, he's been with the Pistons,
Pelicans,
back with the Clippers again. He's been with the Suns, he's been with the Warriors, he's been with the Pelicans, he's been with the Kings. That's a lot of teams.
It is a lot.
But Alvin Gentry is not going to make De'Aaron Fox hit these shots.
No, he's not. But maybe Alvin Gentry could get them to come out and play better in the first and third quarter, the first 5 minutes. Maybe Alvin Gentry could get them to run a better offense that produces more points on a consistent basis. Maybe he changes things altogether and they don't shoot as many threes as they normally do. I mean, the Kings take a lot of threes. They have guys that can hit them, but they're a streaky team. Even Tyrese this year, who shot over 40% last year, he has not shot that well from three this year, but they continue to put him up. And again, I don't right now today, I don't think that Alvin Gentry should be the Kings' next hire, as in their long-term head coach. Mm-hmm. I think he is a luxury to have in a situation like this where you're not performing well. You need to make a change. So get Luke Walton out of here and use this guy who has a ton of coaching experience to basically just hold you above water until you find out what the real long-term answer is going to be.
Yep. I think the question that a lot of Kings fans are contemplating, and it makes sense, especially after, his success this summer, is there a path for Bobby Jackson to be the head coach of the Sacramento Kings?
Is there a path? Sure, there's a path. It's probably a long-term path, right now. I mean, there are a lot of guys, excuse me, a lot of guys in this league or who have put a lot of time in.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Jackson's one of them, but there are a lot of guys who have put a lot more time in than him and who are in a better position than him right now. You know, I don't, it's hard for me to say. I don't see the way Bobby Jackson runs his practices. You know, I don't know how much of a risk it would be to try to take, you know, Gary Payton has been an example of a coach who's had a lot of success, obviously has a great reputation. Nobody's given him an opportunity yet. Even someone like Becky Hammon still hasn't gotten an opportunity as head coach yet in the league. She's somebody I would take a close look at.
What is she going to change on this Kings team?
What can she change on this Kings team?
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, exactly what she's going to do. I would have to sit down and talk to her. But I just think that I think the Kings need to make a change. You know, I don't know what her philosophy, her coaching philosophy would be. I don't know what Alvin Gentry's coaching philosophy would be or how different it would be from Luke Walton's. But this team just is not producing in the way that they should be producing right now.
Ed says, y'all thirsty as fuck. We need to trust the process. All the negative energy ain't good. LOL.
The negative energy is not good. You're right. But the Kings haven't made the playoffs in 15 years.
And they're on a 4-game losing
have
streak.
A roster today that's talented enough to make the playoffs.
Yep.
And they continue to take step back after step back after step back.
Yep.
They continuously play games where both halves are completely schizophrenic. The one half they look great, the next half they don't. They're a team that shoots a lot of threes, so obviously you're going to have to endure parts where you're not hitting from the outside. When you're up 18 in a game on the road that you've controlled the whole way, just because all of a sudden your shots start to not fall, you have to find a way to pull that game out on the road. And I don't know if it's more the players to blame than it is the coaching staff. But Luke Walton, in his whole time there, this is exactly what we've seen from them.
Yep.
And he's been given a more talented roster. He's been given good draft picks. You can argue whether or not the draft picks were the right picks at that particular time because of how they fit into the rest of the team and should they make a trade. But I don't know if this team is better if they trade De'Aaron Fox for Ben Simmons, but Luke Walton is still the coach.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that's the case.
I've been a manager at a few different jobs. And one thing that I've learned being a manager is that when shit hits the fan, it's your fault.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if that specific job or that specific, responsibility was yours. Maybe it was somebody that was under you. But if they didn't do it or they didn't meet expectations, it's on you because you're the one that's responsible. So I think a lot of this really does fall on Luke Walton. And I've said in the past, I support Luke Walton as long as the players want to play for him. I want him to be on this team. But I'm seeing in the chat here, a lot of people are talking about bringing Yeager back. I was a big fan of Dave Yeager. I thought he did well with this team. The only real separation that Dave had with this team, which led to him getting fired, was he didn't want the team to draft Marvin Bagley. He wanted Vlade to take Doncic. And as soon as they took Bagley, it seemed like the writing was already on the wall for Yeager. There was even a practice where he calls out Vlade and he says, hey, I got a trade set up for Doncic. You want to trade for him? We could trade for Doncic. I think the Kings have spoken, and they've said that Marvin Bagley is not part of this team. He's not a future on this team. Dave Yeager's with Philadelphia now. He's assistant coach there.
Mm-hmm.
Head coach for him might be an upgrade. I think it's very rare to bring a guy in halfway through the season that hasn't been with the team, but potentially you make an Alvin Gentry a head coach or interim for the rest of the season. You bring Dave Yeager back at the end of the season. Would you be open to a move like that, or would you be open to somebody new like Mike D'Antoni?
Yeah, I've seen Mike D'Antoni's name here in the chat. I do like Mike D'Antoni. I agree with Sacktown Breakdown here. I like D'Antoni. I think that he could fix a lot of the problems that this team has on offense. I think he would make them play faster, which would be a good thing. I think he would fix a lot of the when the ball just gets stagnant and doesn't move and there's so much one-on-one. Yes, I realize Mike D'Antoni did that for years with Houston, but that's because he had the best isolation player in the game on his team.
Yep.
He can easily adjust to a different system that has a variety of players that can score. And maybe they still pick up the slack on defense. You know, D'Antoni's an interesting guy. You and I have been big Mark Jackson fans for a long time.
Yep, I was just about to mention that.
I still think that Mark Jackson would be a good person to give a shot with this team. He's the type of guy. He just has that leadership quality to him.
Yep.
He's the guy that would come in and totally, you know, we talked a lot in the offseason about this team needs to change the culture and get rid of all the years of pain and the years of losing, the mystique that comes behind all of that clouds your head as a player.
He's a player's coach.
He's a player's coach for sure, and he's a great motivator. So I think he would be a good a good guy to get. That is, if he's willing to still come out of the booth.
Sass says no motivational speaker coaches.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what this team needs as a motivational speaker coach.
They need someone that's going to empower these players to play well. That's really what needs to happen, honestly. Kick ass. I see you say stupid Vlade fired 2 winning coaches in Yeager and Malone. Yeah, he did. And in live time, I was very upset that happened. I didn't want Mike Malone to be fired. As soon as he got fired, the Nuggets jumped on that opportunity. They hired him. Same with the Yeager situation. But in Vlade's defense, and I don't do this very often, he hired the 6th most winningest coach of all time in George Karl. He thought that George Karl would have been a path to the playoffs for this team. And I think Vlade was in a very, very tough position because when you lose for so long, the odds just keep stacking on top of you and what's expected of you. And I don't know if he was given the opportunity of like, hey, if we want to make this a good team, we need to sit down. We need to rebuild this team from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be slow. We need to be patient. We need to build through the draft. I don't know if he was given that option. So when you're not given that option, it's basically your job or mine. So he's not thinking Mike Malone or Dave Yeager is the guy that's going to help us build and get better and move on to the playoffs. He's thinking this year I need to make the playoffs or I'm getting fired. And that's probably why he made the move for George Karl.
Probably. I mean, that's a guy, you know, at the time you feel like it's a big splash hire. George Karl, like you said, 6th most winningest coach in history, comes with a lot of reputation behind him, has coached a lot of really good players in this team, and it just didn't work out. Sass, I'm sorry, man. I disagree with you. I don't think Luke Walton is a motivational coach. I don't see that from him. I don't see sure, he gets upset on the sidelines. He can get in your face. He can yell, all this stuff. I don't know. When I listen to him talk post game in his press conferences, yes, he has a really monotone voice and all that stuff. That doesn't make you sound like a motivational guy in general. But I just don't. I don't see that from him at all. Even if guys like playing for him, I don't consider him the guy that can take a timeout, sit everybody down, slap the clipboard. You know, even when he does that stuff, it just doesn't seem genuine
fake. Yeah,
to me.
It seems fake. Yeah. He's seen a lot of other guys do that, and he's trying to imitate instead of organically do it because that's how he feels. And you know how I feel right now is I'm pissed because we only have 15 likes right now. If you're all Kings fans, hit that like button down below. Come on, guys. We're all Kings fans. We want to talk about the Kings. We want the Kings to do well. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Because if we're going to make the playoffs, we all need to do it together, honestly. And I don't know if that is trading De'Aaron Fox. I don't know if that's trading Buddy Hield. Obviously, Marvin Bagley is not part of this team now, so he's on his way out. Hopefully, the Kings can get something from him so they don't end up in another situation of giving up a player. And I think that Marvin Bagley will probably do well on another team if he can stay healthy. I think he can help this team this year if he was given the opportunity, but obviously, there's something going on. I don't know if it's between him and the front office or him and the coaching staff. But honestly, he's not been involved in this team. And it's very sad. It's very sad as a Kings fan.